welcome to Backstage in Hamburg. Welcome to Hamburg. You're in tour with Nickelback, and not for the first time.
No.
Promoting your new album, Sittin Heavy. That's a nice arena, there, right?
Yeah.
Have you been in there? You just arrived, right?
Yeah, I think one of the first things I like to do when we get here is just to kind of go into where they're building the stage and kind of just take a look around and see what the deal is.
Yeah.
We've been on the road with them now for a couple of weeks, and we're just getting used to the big rooms and the big arenas, and they're all similar and all very different from each other as well.
Okay. And I kind of have to ask that because Nickelback in Germany was very big at one point, and they still sell out the arenas, but do you get a different vibe from the crowds here as opposed to other European cities?
Yeah, it seems like every country is a little bit different. This is our second German show. We played Munich last night, and otherwise we're still not sure what the German Nickelback crowd is like, but there's a lot of them. Yeah, they were really good last night, so hopefully it continues.
Great, cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the album. You went with Eric Ratz again, and you used 2 studios in Toronto and your own jam space. Can you talk a little bit how you did that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of things that, or at least the main thing that people like to focus on for using the really high-end studios for is the drums. So we picked a really top-notch studio called Revolution in Toronto to do the drums. We got all the drum tracks done, and then we just kind of chipped away at the rest of it in our own spot. Guitar and bass and vocals is very easy to kind of set up a really high-quality rig in your own space. And I mean, we picked away at it all over the place. We ended up doing more drums at Vespa in Toronto, and like I said, we did all the guitars and bass and vocals and organs in our spot, which was great. And it was also kind of got a little too comfortable. We weren't pushing ourselves as hard because we knew we weren't on the clock. It wasn't costing us, $800 a day or whatever. So it was kind of you take the good with the bad, and we saved a lot of money and have our own place now to record. Demos and additional stuff for albums, but at the same time we also didn't have that pressure to force us to finish on time.
Right, and you only did it once as opposed to the last album, right?
Yes. Right. Yes.
All right. And I read somewhere that you were almost done, and then you also talked to the label, and you added one more writing session.
I think we did. I think we redid one song, and then we. We did 4 new songs.
Right.
What did we have on the first one? Maybe only 10 tracks. On the we did 10, and then we knew we'd write some more. And
yeah. I mean, we always like to have too much. It's nice to have like B-side content, and it also allows us to make sure that the record itself is as strong as possible. Then we ended up finishing up with after the second session with like 15 songs. And
it has a great flow to it, right?
Yeah, thanks. That's another thing that we really focus on a lot with our albums is we like it to make sense from beginning to end, and it's to have the first song be the kind of song that starts a record off fantastic, and kind of have a last song that kind of puts it to bed. And we did that with Curiosity, and I think we'll probably end up doing it with our next record too. And the easiest way to do that is just to write too much and whittle it down to the best stuff.
And is that also the approach that you take when you write the set list for a concert, that you think, all right, this is what makes the best sense, as opposed to, I really don't feel like that song today, let's do 2 other songs?
I think we're trying, because of these crowds, there's a lot of people that don't know us, so we're trying to put together a set that flows really well, but is a great representation of who we are as a band. Right. I think you structured a little differently from a record where you want to kind of go up at the end, and you want to play, maybe some of your biggest hits or catchiest songs right at the end to leave a lasting impression with the crowd. But we've been playing around with a couple different set lists, and we think we've found one that's pretty good right now that is a good showcase of all of what we are for the Nickelback fans.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are a couple of bands I would say that you are in the same vibe with, that are really going strong.
Sure.
But your unique difference is that you have not 2 guitars, but a guitar and an organ player.
Right.
So how does that come into play when you're writing, and also in terms of, sometimes the organ sounds a lot like horns, and then you also have slide guitar to mix things up. How does it come into play when you write stuff? Is it conscious or?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we look at it two different ways. There's really like two kind of specific ways that we tend to look at the organ. One is kind of as a rhythm guitar, filling out the bottom end while if I'm playing a lead or a more melodic part. And then there's also kind of, there's lots of parts on the new record that are just organ parts or just key parts where he's kind of taking the more of a leading role on the, you know, like a song like Black Forest or Enjoy the Time or something where it's like a defined and clear key or organ part. Things get better, another thing like that. So, yeah.
I think the organ's pretty cool in the sense of like, I kind of had only learned how to play a few years before this band started, and I really learned how to play a lot more, but it has a very different sound, and like, it doesn't decay at all. The note sustains as long as you're holding it down, and that gives a different feeling to the music that's put in. And so I try to use those textures a lot to make our sound, you know, a little bit different than those other bands that we're put in the category with. And I think rock and roll has gotten pretty pigeonholed in its place of, you know, the same guitar sounds, and every song, every band and every song kind of sounds the same. And I think the organ helps
Push it down.
give us a little distance from those kind of bands.
And mainly think of Rival Sons because they have the same kind of setup.
Right.
This slightly different configuration with this with Jay being lead singer on his own, but we still have like the one guitar, one organ, one bass, one drums, and then, so I mean they do a phenomenal job at what they do.
They're definitely they use their keyboards a lot more texturally. It's definitely not as distorted and loud as we are. Like a lot of when we started, my primary goal was just to play rhythm guitar parts so that Jared could play leads.
Or just have that double sound where you've got this wide, you know, it sounds like two things at once, but it, you know, it's creating this massive width across the left and right.
It fills in the gaps of the guitar and the bass, like hitting those decaying notes together. When they decay, there's still something in between.
Right, and the sonic difference also, because it's not just like one is playing a Les Paul and the other guy's playing a Strat. But it's
Totally. Well, that's the thing, that organ is endlessly manipulable. The drawbars really give you every possibility of tonality. Like
he can fill in anything. He can support the bass. He can support the guitar. It can be its own thing. It's very versatile.
And like just by holding one note, I can pull out different bars, and it actually changing the notes. I'm adding notes and taking them away. It's like it has so much capability. It's such a cool instrument.
Let's briefly say, what kind of organ do you use? Do you use the same one as you used on Furosity?
Yeah, they're all just versions of a Hammond B3. Okay. It's like the actual B3s are super heavy and really hard to tour with, but a lot of keyboard makers make good digital versions that are copying it. But a lot of the distinctive sound comes from the Leslie cabinet, the one that spins around, that is always kind of gone hand in hand with a Hammond B3. And we tour with a Leslie, so I do that, but I also do a John Lord type thing where I put it through a guitar amp sound, and I mix those two sounds together. So,
all right. To mention it, what kind of amp are you using for that?
I'm using a Fractal Axe Effects. But it's also, I have a switcher built for the Leslie that's all, so I can preamp my Leslie with the Fractal as well as do an amp tone with it, and then I can change it with every song and, you know, match all my effects and filters and stuff to the beats of the songs. And
you are not playing Marshall, you're playing Soldano, right?
No, Soldano's old. Old.
Yeah,
it was my first. Soldano was my first head in this band. I still have it. I still use it in recording and everything. Since we've been in Europe, I've been using Marshall. They've been awesome. Why? You don't like Marshall?
No, I do. But
you love Soldano.
Also not true. I was just trying to make the point that, you know, the sonic difference is also that you're playing the S3 through the Soldano and not through the Marshall.
Well, man, I'm a strong believer in that. At least half the tone is coming from the player.
Right.
And
Sure.
so a lot of times, even our sound guy Chris will say, like I'll use different amps, but it always sounds the same. And I honestly don't typically find that much of a sonic difference between my Marshalls or my Soldano or my vintage Marshalls, or I've got a custom Morris head that I use too a lot. And at the end of the day, it's very minute differences between all of them, and you'd be hard pressed to be able to pick out the Marshall versus the Soldano versus the Morris versus anything else. So and right now I'm happy with the Marshall just because they've been a great sponsor to me and helped me out, to save us money on the road by giving us stuff to use while we're out here.
All right, heads up for Marshall. So, did you use the old SG for recording, or did you also use your touring ones?
I use my touring one.
Okay.
I don't have it out here right now because I basically have two,
Yeah.
and they're basically almost identical to each other. They're very small differences, but my main guitar is in North America, and I used it on basically the whole record. I used it all across all the North American touring this year, and the copy I have of it lives here. And I just started using it on this tour, and I'd be hard pressed to be able to pick the two apart. And it's just a 2011 or 2012.
I think 11. I thought you would say.
Yeah, I was getting mixed up. So yeah, 2011, 61 reissue SG. It's a TV yellow. It's a small run they did for Canada.
Yeah. All right. In preparation, I listened to a lot of Agnes Obel. So
Awesome. She's got a new record coming.
Yeah, you putting her. Everybody who reads your interviews is like you putting her on the map here.
Oh yeah, right. She's on the map in Germany, especially. She lives in Berlin.
Right. Yeah. She. It reminds me a little bit of what's her name? Cornflake Girl. Tori Amos, just a little bit.
Oh really? Okay.
But it's good stuff. Congratulations on being on the NHL 17 soundtrack.
Yeah.
Are you excited about that?
I'm very excited about it.
You play a lot, right?
I play that game religiously.
You too?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm the only video gamer in the band, really.
Okay.
And that's almost the only game I play. And it just came out 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And I haven't played it. I played the beta like 2 months ago, and I liked it. But we see we're doing this. There's no time for video games, so.
So when you play, is your favorite player in the game usually you take your favorite player, or do you just pick the best one?
No, the mode that I play, you get to be yourself.
Right.
So I just make my character look like me, and I play right defense for my team. And it's just Jeremy Waterman, number 17, worst player on the team.
Okay. All right. But in general, you would be rooting for Toronto or
Montreal.
Montreal.
The other two guys, Steve and Marv, they both cheer for Toronto.
Okay.
And he's a Canucks fan.
Okay.
But
I like any teams really.
Okay.
I'm a fan of the game.
Okay. Well, I'll feed that to the Canadian media, and then you'll get quoted. In a letter to Rock Sound TV, or no, you wrote a letter to yourself.
Yeah.
For Rock Sound TV.
Yeah.
And I thought you were pretty hard on your guitar playing there.
Yeah, I typically am. Yeah.
Okay. But why?
I
mean, not in the sense that everybody finds areas where there's maybe room for improvement, but I don't know. You're touring with the big bands. You're you're going on a headliner show yourself pretty soon.
I mean, if we're looking at me specifically, for me, any of the successes that we've had that I've been a part of with the group, to me, have been a stronger reflection of what I'm capable of as a songwriter, more than a guitar player. So when it comes to the actual technical proficiency of my guitar playing, I feel like I'm outdone by almost every other guitar player in every other band, just as far as their chops and their abilities from a lead and solo standpoint. And I kind of approach it, I guess, from a slightly different angle in that because I can't play as fast or as technical. I really try and emphasize the melody and the catchiness of the parts, and just kind of the passion of what I'm trying to achieve with it. So a lot of times people will see that kind of playing and really appreciate it, which is again I'm a huge fan of too, which is it's melodic, it's catchy, and I mean it. every note is there's a reason that I put it there, and it's why I play like that. Which is what I'm proud of, is that kind of the creativity or the the songwriting aspect of it. So if I'm hard on myself, it's usually because we're touring with Slash, touring with even Chad from Nickelback can shred up and down the neck, which I cannot. And even guys like Scott from Rival Sons, and there's definitely elements of all those guitar players I envy, and I'm constantly trying to work harder to achieve that level of technical proficiency, but it's just I'm not there yet. So it's just I like you said, every time I say this, people are just, oh, you're a great guitar player, blah blah blah. I always striving for more.
All right. Well, I mean, it's of course there's people who may play faster, but you're at the end of the day. Who was it? We just saw the support act for Queensryche. We call it Archer Nation.
Okay.
And they were just running around the stage and like entertaining the crowd. And I mean that's what your music is kind of doing. There's or not for me at least. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of passion that's transported to the audience.
Right.
And the song is the important thing, not especially.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody's entertained by different things.
True. Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a bunch of guys who would love to go and watch guys just noodle away.
My dad does,
and that's
I do too. Yeah,
and that's great. But probably those guys don't really care about Monster Truck, and that's okay because there's a whole bunch of other people who would rather see Jeremy running around, jumping off the stage and stuff like that, and hopefully we entertain those people.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, I mean, you also said that please ignore what everybody else thinks. I mean, that's also a little bit what I suppose becoming a successful artist means to oneself personally.
I think it's the starting point.
Yeah.
I think it's a great starting point to just be very focused on, to a selfish level, of what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and what you want to hear coming out of your speakers. If you can be in complete control of that without letting other people's kind of expectations or influences take you to somewhere you don't want to go, that's a great starting point for any band or artist to really just be honest with themselves and start from a place of truth.
You just said that you just started playing the organ shortly before you joined the band.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's at what point kind of do you say, gee, I started playing organ for fun, but now all of a sudden, we're selling records and I'm in a band. I'm an artist. I'm in Keyboard Magazine. What
I haven't been in Keyboard Magazine yet.
We have to change.
See, I mean, maybe I'm hard on myself, but I'm also not technically very good at all. But I also don't think that matters very much.
Yeah.
There's so many other elements to being in a band. It's not
Especially
just
nowadays.
about chops. Like we're still very tuned into the business ways of the band and the marketing ways of the band, and there's so many other elements to being in a band than playing the keyboard.
And again, with that being the case, it's almost. I mean, it's a good thing for us because we're very aware of everything that it takes to be in a successful band nowadays, because we do all those jobs, a lot of those jobs. But it's almost a bad thing too, because there's all kinds of super talented, creative individuals who have absolutely zero, business savvy or logistical savvy, where they get left behind because record labels nowadays don't have the ability to take chances on artists who are kind of unable to promote themselves, unable to book their own shows, their own tours. They all, the music industry is very focused on finding artists that are already kind of on their way and kind of helping them from that point on.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a lot of, back in the day, in the 70s and 60s and even into the 80s, you had bands that had promise. They were, 5 young guys.
Development deal.
Yeah, and they
that
doesn't happen anymore because they just can't. They can't sign 10 bands to development deals on the hopes that one gets massive now.
Yeah.
They want to wait until they see those 10 bands kind of find their way and get to a point where they are proving that they can take care of finances, they can make their own merch designs, they can release their own records, they can book their own shows, maybe book their own tours, and basically keep control of it from that angle, because there's just not enough resources available in the music industry right now to support these people who can't support themselves. And so, that's kind of where we flourished early, which was that we were making waves on our own. And of course, anytime a record label or management company or booking agency sees that kind of potential from a band that's got songs, can release records, and can take care of themselves, you're already kind of a couple steps ahead there.
Like we had to build Southern Ontario in and around Toronto, completely on our own, but without anyone's help. We had put out a couple EPs, and we were playing to 300 or 400 people in 10 cities all around there. Right. By ourselves, with no agents and no label. In fact, we had been approached by those entities, and we said, no, we're just doing this for fun. We're doing it for ourselves right now. We don't want to play on Tuesday nights ever. We would rather play on the weekend. Yeah.
And we don't want to go on tour.
We're not going to go on tour because we don't have a van, and we're not going to. Another thing was we never wanted to spend our own personal money. We always wanted anything we would spend on the band had to make that money first. Right. So
it's putting the horse in front of the cart and taking the slow road.
Right. Yeah, you do the artwork yourself.
Yeah, it's a collaborative process. Yeah.
Yeah, and you also I saw you. You do a lot of social media yourself. I saw you answering comments on, I don't know, like the ultimate guitar review for the album.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite.
That was so fun.
That was one of my favorite things I've ever had happen with the band, and like something like that, where the people who write certain things on the internet for whatever reason, don't think the band's gonna see it.
Yeah.
And they had hired a brand new guy to review albums, and he didn't know what he was doing. And he spelled everyone's name wrong. He put in all the wrong, whether or not you like the music, there was just factually incorrect stuff through the whole review. And then, of course, he didn't like the record either, and made a lot of assumptions, like they're never going to be able to tour Europe because they're not good enough or whatever. We'd already toured Europe 5 times, he just didn't know. So I came kind of flying in, and I was pretty polite about it. I was like, you don't like the band, that's okay, but that's not my name, that's not his name, that's not true, this didn't happen. And it was just like, I just took the whole thing apart, and I got an email from them the next day, the editor of the whole website, being like, sorry, he's new, he didn't know what he was doing, we're going to fix it. And obviously it's the internet, you can't get too upset about anything anybody says on the internet. And we took it all in fun, and I'm still an active member on that forum. I like to go there to find guitar tabs for songs I want to learn. It's a great website. Yeah. So that was the thing that I didn't like either, is because I like that website. I'm on there all the time, and it was good to see that they were very very good at the communication, and everything got fixed, and we all had a good laugh.
All right. So how many shows are you gonna be in this run with Nickelback?
I think it's close to 30.
30. We've done about 10. There's about 20 to go.
Okay, so we have to hurry up and get this out there. Anything else you want to add about, I don't know, the album, the tour, music business, Spotify maybe? That's always a good topic.
I think a lot of people have a lot of opinions about streaming stuff. I just don't care. I like it. I don't like it. I love it. It works. It doesn't work. It's so quickly evolving and changing that even anything I say right now could be completely irrelevant in 3 months. Yeah. And we've experienced a lot of support through being able to distribute our music online, whether illegally streaming, selling digital copies, and I think it's all good.
Personally, I love it.
I use it.
I mean, there's a couple little ways that the programs work, and when you update your phone, you lose everything that you downloaded, and that's a pain in the ass. But whatever. I mean, it's still so great. I love so many kinds of music, and it's all right there for me. And like as far as the band goes, we never ever expected to make any money from the sale of our music. We feel it's just a promotional piece to get people to come to the concerts, which is where we try to make we do make our money. So
kind of resigning ourselves to that idea. We're early on in the band, which is why we gave away all of our first EPs for free online anyways. Allows us the freedom to not have to be too concerned about it. And again, I think it's one of those revenue streams that only really becomes a tangible amount of money when you've already made it. and we're still kind of in the middle. So
Yeah.
it's
Until we'll start reevaluating that opinion if we ever get to a level where we feel we should be getting paid for album sales. Like, look
Right.
at these places we're playing. How many records have we sold? Let's see.
I still don't.
We've been asking.
But
We've been asking for the accounting for
I haven't-
very old recordings for a long time.
So I don't know how many records we've sold.
Right.
I don't know what they were went for. I don't know what and that sounds dumb from my angle because like most people,
But you're talking about all sales, not just digital. You're
talking
saying
everything.
like CDs, vinyl,
Anything,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what not even our record before Sittin Heavy Curiosity.
Yeah.
I have no idea how many copies that sold. I don't know where they sold. I don't know who sold them. Basically, it's.
But didn't you also just say before that you were one of the bands that was able to take care of everything themselves?
Yeah.
So isn't
Well,
that,
this is somewhere that we resigned ourselves to giving up about it really early on.
Okay.
We have a record label. They put out the records. I'm almost positive they spend as much money promoting those records as they do making money from selling them. It's probably close to a wash in the end as far as dollars and cents going back and forth. And it'd be something that I would only become very, attentive about if I knew that what we were selling was something in the. We're talking about millions of dollars as opposed to hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is right now.
And we know that they're spending a lot of money on marketing, and that's promoting our band. So
Sure.
until we're pretty sensible about it, I don't think that we definitly have a grasp on our immediate our accounting, what we spend,
we know what we know what we're doing.
So we know how much they gave us for the licensing and everything, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we'll start asking questions when there's a lot more
Money at the table,
people
yeah.
at the shows, kind of thing.
in terms of playing live and making the money there, you're kind of in a good position because the bands that you were touring with apparently like you so much that they always ask you back.
Yeah.
So that's like a very good indication.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's half because we're fun.
Yeah,
Definitely. It was a lot of fun. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
very professional.